Hello and welcome to the Asylum. I'm your host Don and my co-host Jeremiah.
And today we're not going to be talking about the sequel to this movie because we realized it was movie 2, and so we're going to start with H.G. Wells's. It's movie. The one we picked was movie 2 of 3,
Yep.
but we're going to be talking about H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. And then we're going to talk about that one. So next week's one is going to be a sequel to this one, and then the one that comes after that. Because we were going to try to do 2, but there's 3, and that's too many movies.
Yeah, 3 is unreasonable, untenable. It's going to be too long of a video. So 3 was flat out. But yeah, so it turns out that there are 3 of them, as we learned when I was perusing Tubi. And the third one came out last year and has a Baldwin in it. So, it's got to be gold.
Hey, this one has a Busey in it.
This does have a Busey.
But this one actually is 2005's War of the Worlds. It came out a couple of days before the Tom Cruise Steven Spielberg movie. And this is the original Asylum mockbuster.
Yeah, this was we did some research. This is essentially the movie that created Asylum's business model for all intents and purposes. The script had been written in
1997.
97. So the script had been written in 97 initially, and was passed around from big business movie makers to big business movie makers, and nobody would take it up, even though there was substantial interest in it by Tom Cruise nonetheless and some other actors, but never got picked up. And then Asylum finally picks it up, and while they're looking into making this movie, they find out that Tom Cruise is about to be in a War of the Worlds movie, and they actually attempted to contact the movie makers that made that one, which was Paramount. Was it Paramount?
I want to say it's Paramount. Yes, yeah, Paramount. Yes, because this overseas was called The Invasion, which was the original name of the script. Yeah, it was originally called The Invasion. It was supposed to be a modern day retelling featuring 2 brothers, 1 scientist, 1 soldier, and it was going to star C. Thomas Howell, who's the star of this movie, and Tom Cruise, but it fell through because of the budget.
Yep, and so that didn't happen. Then Asylum picked it up. Asylum tried to communicate with Paramount about the fact, like, hey, we're both making this movie at the same time. It's gonna be a little weird. Is there anything we can do to make this less awkward? And Paramount essentially just never responded.
Gave them the middle finger.
Yeah, was very rude. So they were just like, well, you know what? They gave them the middle finger back, and they're just like, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna release it right before your movie and see what happens. And what ended up happening is it made them a bunch of money. And thus, this was the beginning of what has spawned our new YouTube series talking about this company's movies.
Also, one of the cool things of this one is they reworked the script a bit to make it work. Also, the musical score and effects were created for this movie, but the Asylum has reused the score and effects in about 24 other movies, which is glorious. But this one was definitely written. It was written by Carlos de los Rios as a War of the Worlds modern telling. He, of course, did not write the one that Spielberg did, but he has done movies. Yeah. Not necessarily a lot of them that you would have seen, but he has written movies, and this is one of the ones that he wanted to do. And this was the original idea for a modern telling. But of course, as we know in Hollywood, they steal each other's ideas all the time.
All the time.
There's always dual ideas going on at the same time because people will sell ideas to multiple studios, and the one who gets it out first wins. And so H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds happened, and I don't know if we'll get into it, but it is definitely the Tom Cruise one is definitely closer in spirit and intention to what H.G. Wells wrote. The paranoia is there because if you read War of the Worlds, it's very much a no one knows what the heck is going on, tale of confusion, fog of war. Like you don't know what's happening until it ends, and then you go, "What?" That is the point of that story. It's not from a hero. It's not a hero. But this one,
H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds was essentially the first found footage film without being on camera. Yeah. H.G. Wells it was a radio broadcast that people thought was real because of the way it was presented.
So H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds was written in the 1800s. You're talking about Orson Welles' version of it, which was a radio broadcast, and there's a whole movie about how people took it as real and freaked out about it. That's actually a really good radio broadcast, by the way. I grew up with that one. It's the sound effects are quite terrifying. But
I've heard
so this one, I was actually laughing because I was looking at Wikipedia. I'm like, I don't know what the plot they put on here is, and it's like 3 very short paragraphs. And that's about right. This movie's 90 minutes long, has a budget of $1 million. It stars C. Thomas Howell, who was supposed to be with Tom Cruise. Like, if I had him opposite Tom Cruise, I don't know if it might have made him a bit better. He wasn't terrible in this movie, but pretty much everyone else was terrible in this movie, especially Jake Busey. Jake Busey was pretty bad. Like,
I mean, Jake Busey's only good if you give him a neon violin. Like, let's be honest. Or you make him a ghost.
Let me think.
Yeah,
he was Ghost was Frighteners, right?
Yes.
Okay. He was in Swamp Thing, which is pretty good as well. I think he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Swamp Thing, like the TV show, like the good show. He wasn't a Mentalist, but I don't remember him being good in that one. He was just there.
Just exists.
Yeah, this was about the time when he was in Christmas with the Cranks and Hitcher 2.
Hitcher 2. That's a blockbuster if ever.
But so it's funny. I read this plot description. It's like, on the surface of Mars, the Mars rover is destroyed by an unknown force, and I was like, what? Is that what happened at the beginning? Because this movie starts off with credits, long credits, and I was really confused. Like, that doesn't happen nowadays.
No, the first thing in this movie is C. Thomas Howell checking out his wife. That's like the opening to this movie.
And is she talking about if he actually wants to get laid or not?
Yeah.
And then he answers the phone because he's a fool.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he did not get laid. Also, spoiler alert, it does open with boobs. So,
but apparently it opens with the Mars rover being destroyed. I missed that somehow, probably because it was in the credits or something.
Or it was in Independence Day. But
it's funny. It says he's an astronomer here, and then it also says he's a meteorologist. One of them, whatever. He's an astronomer. His wife, they were planning on going celebrating their wedding anniversary. A meteorite hits. He gets a phone call. His wife and son go to D.C., and she's not happy with him because he answered the phone, which is not what you do when you're trying to escape for your anniversary.
Yeah.
Answers the phone. He goes witnesses where the crater goes, and if you know War of the Worlds, you know alien comes out. They call them alien walkers in this one, not tripods.
It's because they have 6 legs.
They're more like crabs. The design's actually not bad. I don't mind the design. The design's kind of cool.
No, I thought the design was cool, actually.
And then they had the energy weapons. Lots of people die.
And acid breath.
And there's like these weird tentacles that come out and like spit on people. That's apparently an homage to the 50s version. So he's trying to head to DC. He meets with Sergeant Carey Williams, and he meets Jake Busey's character the first time, which was pretty terrible. Uniforms were still camo-y, but
not really.
I didn't notice him as much in this one. I think because they were all missing ranks. Did you notice that everyone was missing rank insignias?
Yeah.
I think they went to Army Surplus Store, which at least they went to an Army Surplus Store, not like, REI or Dick's Sporting Goods. So, the general story of World of the Worlds, it's there. It's pretty much there. The focus in this one, though, is he spends a lot of time with a pastor who talks about belief in God, and then throughout time he starts losing his faith, and about if there's God there, why would he let this happen, and so on. And they get ultimately defeated by a human virus. But for this one, they gave him the rabies vaccine, which is not a live virus. But okay.
So the logic, okay, if we have any scientists in our audience, correct me if I'm wrong here. But the way that he comes up with the idea is he claims that to fight a virus, you inject somebody with a stronger virus.
No, it's a weaker version of the virus.
Thus, if he injects the aliens with the rabies vaccine, then it'll kill them. So that what he's talking about is inoculation. And an inoculation is a weak or dead version of a virus that you inject somebody with in order to
Create
prevent them
antibodies.
from getting the virus.
So you
It
can create
doesn't,
antibodies to defeat it.
yeah, it doesn't cure them. And there's not like a virus versus virus fight going on inside of you, because then all you end up with is the worst virus that you just injected yourself with. So that makes no sense whatsoever. But it worked in the movie. So he must have been onto something.
And the actual story, of course, they get a cold. They get a common cold because there's germs on Earth and start dying, which makes a whole lot more sense. There's germs everywhere. You just start dying.
Which has historical precedence as
Yeah.
well. So like just human to human contact has precedence. So that makes sense. What they did in the movie, no.
So this movie was definitely rated R, and not
Yeah.
just because of boobs. Like those boobs were fine.
These are pretty graphic deaths.
Yeah, the people get burned. There's acid. There's toxic gas. I will say this movie attempts to be a real movie. Like it attempts to not be schlocky.
Yeah,
but definitely. It doesn't have but it did not have the budget to not be schlocky.
Yeah, I mean they had Jake Busey, so clearly
they couldn't show a
they
city.
didn't have much of a budget.
They couldn't show a city. Like, did you ever see a city in this?
No, they do go to that one town that was completely intact with no explanation as to why this one town is perfectly fine. And then
the people are like, I heard it was the government. It's like one of those bombs went off and it was terrorists. No one knows what. I like that the response the person gave was actually real. Like, no one knows what's actually going on, so no one's leaving because we don't trust what anyone's saying.
Yeah,
which that's a very legit response. So I was surprised, like, oh, someone actually put thought into writing this.
Yeah, no, it's very clearly like obviously they changed the script with the Asylum version, but the bare bones of it is like it's very clearly it's a complete story thought out from beginning to end. They knew what they were doing. It's just like that. It's the in between that's weird. Especially that what I was telling you about earlier, the woman's God speech that just goes on and on. It was like rereading Atlas Shrugged.
I just found it really weird that the pastor was like, "This is the rapture." I'm like, "Then why are you still here?"
Yeah, dude,
I've seen Left Behind. Yeah. But yeah, and then you can find that woman who is talking about how everyone's dead. She graphically talks about her child being murdered in her arms, and then the alien straight up kills her. They freak out in that like bunker collapsed house thing where the pastor like loses his faith. The guy has freaky dreams about his wife.
I like that after the speech, the John Galt speech from this woman, after that speech, the next 3 lines that the pastor says that are spread out through the next probably 15 minutes of the movie are, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm so hungry. Like that's all he says for a while. Doesn't matter. He's just hungry now. That's all he cares about. And then like he has a crisis of faith, but then his faith gets renewed due to the fact that rabies fights aliens.
Yep. So his brother in this movie, who I didn't recognize. Did you recognize his brother in this one? The actor
who played him? Familiar.
It's Peter Greene. Peter Greene is a villain in nearly everything he's in. He's Zed in Pulp Fiction. He's in The Mask as Dorian Tyrell, like the bad guy.
Really? That's why he looked familiar.
This is one of the few movies he's not a villain.
Yeah, but he's also only in the movie for 3 minutes.
I find it weird that so many people died and he starts crying about. Like, I don't know who that person was because, like, I thought his brother was one of the ones who died at the very beginning.
No,
when he goes to find the hole. That's his neighbor.
When he leaves, yeah, it was his neighbor. When he leaves, whatever town they're in, he's heading to Hopewell because that's where his brother, who's a former ranger, lives.
Oh, got it.
And then they get to Hopewell, and his brother just happens to be dying right there.
Okay,
like, no searching.
And I do find it hilarious so that the pastor, he has this lose his faith thing, and then when he finally they have sort of a win with the rabies getting in the thing, then he's like, yeah, no, bitch, you die.
Yeah,
like, spits acid on his face. Anyway. His face is melting. He falls over, and his face is good again. This movie really felt its budget, like the toxic gas. Like, I understand what they were doing, but they didn't have the budget to make it work. The acid stuff they tried, they didn't have the budget. Like, they had enough budget to make it work for a couple of shots, and then they didn't have a budget to continue. The aliens actually thought the crab looked fine.
I mean, for a 2005 movie, the crab monster alien thing looked good for 2005.
So if you look at the poster behind me, that is them blowing up the White House. There is no White House. That's a Capitol building. Sorry, there's nothing like that in this movie. There's nothing cool like that. In fact, they're trying to go to DC the entire movie, and they never get there because the pastor's like, "I've actually been walking the other way to like West Virginia." No. Yeah,
the opposite direction.
West Virginia.
Yeah. My personal favorite, you can feel the budget in this movie's scene, is when Jake Busey shoots the sergeant in the head, but
the hole appears before he shoots.
The hole is already there. So like he pulls up the gun, the camera pans to him, the gunshot wound is already there. Then you get the sound effect, and you get a puff of sand behind him because the bullet went through his head, and then he goes down. It's like, but the gunshot or the wound was already there. They couldn't cut it in a way to make it look like he got actually shot in the head. That was probably my favorite. You can feel the budget of this movie scene.
And
among my
I
other
do find it
favorite
weird
scenes,
though that he gets to DC at the very end, and like I couldn't tell that was really DC. And then he's going all the mist on us, where he's about to go suicidal, and then I don't understand how they all died from the rabies vaccine. That's like an anti-vaxxer's like wet dream right there.
Right? I don't know, man. I don't even know how he got the rabies vaccine into all of them.
Because you get the rabies vaccine in your stomach. That's a double needle shot into your stomach. That's how you get it.
Yeah.
And rabies is a hydrophobia. That's a disease that literally makes water leave your body.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't get it.
Rapidly dehydrated the alien.
Like that would work with World War Z. Spoiler, I guess, if you haven't seen that movie in the last 10 years.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
my other favorite scene is at the end. He reunites with his family because somehow everybody else dies, but not his family due to physics. But
because if you never move, it's easier to find each other if one never moves. I'm like, oh, really? You just waited there the whole time?
Yeah, apparently. So he meets up with his family, and he like has this awkward hug with his wife and son. And when he has this awkward hug, like everybody else that's in the photo or in the video is just like awkwardly watching them hug each other, and it's fantastic.
Oh, we get your co-host.
Yeah, my cute little co-host. Look at her cute little outfit. Oh, don't show your underwear, sweetie. Look at her cute little outfit.
Oh, she's smiling.
Yeah, she always smiles. Flying bear.
Did you notice throughout this entire movie there's like a theme of like viruses? Like the sun has a cold throughout this entire movie.
They definitely set that up real well.
But
that they were going to give them the virus was going to happen. I just don't know why they chose rabies.
Like, why didn't they sneeze on them or something? Like, chew.
Yeah, right. Because the son has the cold at the beginning, and then when he meets the pastor, he's recovering from something, probably the cold or the flu, and the pastor like helps him because he had a fever and all that. And it's just like, so they really set up the like, we're going to have viruses involved in this in some way, shape, or form. They just went with the rabies vaccine for some reason.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I don't mind the designs. They said they went with the crab because they gave him more freedom, which is fine. They didn't. It actually it moved a whole lot better than the stuff we saw that they made like a decade later.
Yeah, right.
Despite having, the same budget. Jake Busey's terrible. Like I love how he like gave himself a field promotion because he could, and how the description says that the battle we saw earlier was like the last stand of the army. Like, really? No, that wasn't. Where's the Air Force? Where's the Navy? Where's the missiles?
Where are the missiles?
Because these aliens don't have shields. They never show them with shields or anything.
I don't even think they show anybody shooting them.
They had the army guys shot him a lot. Remember when that lady was doing her little rapture thing? Like they're trying to sneak around,
Yeah.
and the army guys like sneaking, and they're like, "Well, we better move right now." That's like not
I
like the
also
last stand of the army.
I also love the scene where they like went to the river and they're like having a full conversation about like berries and how he knows about berries because he has to use chemicals in his research, which as an astrologist or a meteorologist, I'm not sure why
Yeah,
he
as
would be using
astronomer,
chemicals, but he's using
unless he's bringing
chemicals in
back
his
moon
research.
rocks or something.
Yeah, right. But so he's talking about like, oh, these berries are healthy. They've got anti-headache stuff. They'll make you feel better. He's like, but don't eat those ones. Those are nightshade. And they have like this conversation about it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then it turns out that there's a tripod or octopod, whatever, directly above them. Like
Oh, yep, they definitely didn't listen.
they walked out underneath this thing, had a 3-minute conversation, and then the thing's like, hey, wait a second, I should kill these guys. You're saying, why? Um, so anyway, if you can't tell, I enjoyed the movie. Jeremiah, I think, also enjoyed the movie.
So here's what I'm gonna say about this movie. It tries to be legit,
It does. It's an honest attempt.
and it is 90 minutes long, so it's not hard to get through. And I certainly could get through this one easier than I could any of the two recent TV adaptations. The one where like one of them is in modern day and they literally kill 95% of the Earth in their opening episode, and the other
Yeah.
one with like they try to make it the actual show, but they jump forward into the future where the Earth is all red instead. I could get through it this one easier than those ones. Would I recommend it? No.
I can say I got through this easier than I got through any of the Sharknado movies.
For me, it's
So
not bad enough for me to be entertained, but it's not good enough for me to say, yeah, go watch this.
yeah, like this is one of those like you're bored and you don't have Netflix and you don't have Hulu. So Tubi's free and you just want to watch something on Tubi. You can put this on, you'll be entertained, you won't be upset or disappointed by it. You'll be entertained. As opposed to like Battle Star Wars, which you will not be
Which is
entertained.
apparently Rise of Skywalker. I don't know how.
Yeah. As we learned, appendix to the previous movie or previous episodes we've done, apparently Battle Star Wars is supposed to be Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, this one, though, is War of the Worlds is a famous book. It's not that hard to adapt it. Even though I don't know why well, they don't adapt it properly. Like, I don't know. But there's the 50s version's better than this. The 80s TV series better than this. The Tom Cruise one is better than this. There's just so many better options of this exact story that I
Yeah.
see no reason to really recommend this one. Now, the sequel,
Unless the
we'll see what
sequel's
happens
really
in the
good.
sequel. The
If the
sequel could be
sequel's really
amazing.
good, then I haven't watched the sequel yet. Jeremiah has. I haven't watched it yet.
I started it and I stopped it because I was going, we're not going to finish it. I'm not going to like put
Yeah.
myself through.
My work schedule is kind of constant throughout the year. Jeremiah's on a bit of a lower work schedule because he's just doing summer school now instead of doing the full blown school year. So he's got more movie time than I do at the moment. So he's further along than me. But our next video
the star of this one, the main character,
is in the second.
C. Thomas
Right?
Howell, is the director and star of the second one.
Yeah. So that's
But
cool.
C. Thomas Howell's in a lot of stuff you've seen though. He's in E.T., he's in The Outsiders, he's in Red Dawn, he's in The Hitcher, he's in Return of the Musketeers, he's in Gettysburg. He's Thomas Chamberlain in Gettysburg. He's Chamberlain's brother.
Huh.
Like he's a legit actor.
Yeah, which is probably why he was going to star opposite Tom Cruise. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't put like Jake Busey opposite of Tom Cruise. You
Like
would
before he was in this one, the year before he was in Gods and Generals, which I see it wouldn't really work now. Hidalgo.
He was in Hidalgo?
Yep. He was in something called The Glass Trap, and then after this one, he started doing schlock for Asylum, like Da Vinci's Treasure. And
Looking forward to that one.
The Day the Earth Stopped. Here's an American Pie Presents, one of those ones. Weird. That's a weird. Oh, apparently he's Professor Zoom, Edward Thawne in the DC animated universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's Flashpoint Paradox, Professor Zoom.
Interesting.
He's also in Amazing Spider-Man.
As who?
Troy. I'll look at that one later. But he's in legit stuff. But this was his first one where he started being with the Asylum for a while. But he is definitely an actor who has been in really popular, award-winning stuff.
Like you said earlier, he did a good job. His wife, not so much. His child, definitely.
Well, his wife's barely. No. His wife did fine. She's just in only 2 scenes. She's at the beginning to show her boobs, and at the very end, she's never in it again.
That's fair. The son's lines were the most stilted I think I've seen in a hot minute.
Like his brother, Peter Greene, I don't know why he's in this movie. The pastor was terrible. The sergeant was okay. Jake Busey was awful.
For a second, I thought that the pastor was like Russell Crowe's brother or something because it just sounded like somebody trying to sound like Russell Crowe.
It's Rhett Giles, who, interesting enough, he's a TV producer now.
Huh.
And like he went on from this to produce the show Covert Affairs and 12 Monkeys.
Oh, really?
Amityville Terror, Royal Pains, Blind Spot, Treadstone, Last Exorcist, Cypher, and he's working on stuff now.
Holy cow.
Like, really? Like that's wow. And in this movie, after this movie, he was in Legion of the Dead, Frankenstein Reborn, Jolly Roger, A Massacre at Cutter's Cove, Mangler Reborn, baby. Dracula's Curse. He was an Alias.
Wait, he's in Dracula's Curse?
Yep. He's Jacob Van Helsing.
What? Oh, man, I need to watch that again.
And he's in Transmorphers, which we'll get to eventually.
Dracula's Curse is the third in the Dracula 2000 series, right? That one was Dracula's Curse.
Let me make sure. But, he's done other stuff. Like this one, they tried hiring actual people. Bram Stoker's Dracula's Curse. Yep, that is him.
That's not the one where he counts all the rice in the air. It's the sequel to that one.
Okay, the one I stopped seeing.
Yeah,
but this one they tried. I'll say I was impressed with. It was trying to be a legit movie, but I don't watch Asylum movies to try to get a legit movie. I watch Asylum movies to have a chick fight while these giant pythons and giant gators are like moving in the same action over and over and over and over and over.
Or to watch radioactive sharks explode when they come into contact with the ground. That's why we watch
a nuclear power plant and suddenly become radioactive sharknadoes. I wonder, just looking at, no, we'll talk about that later. But I wouldn't recommend this one. There's definitely way better versions of this story out there. You'd recommend it because it's fine. All these Asylum movies are 90 minutes. They're not going to really overstay their welcome. They might understay a little bit.
Yeah, this isn't like Mega Python versus Gatoroid, where it's like you get your friends together and watch a crappy movie. Like this is like you have nothing else to watch. This is you won't be upset sort of situation. It's better. It's better than Battlestar Wars. Technically, it's better than Mega Python versus Gatoroid, but
it's better
you would
directed.
Enjoy Mega Python versus Gatoroid more than you would enjoy this movie.
Yep,
if that makes sense.
And so next week we're going to cover the one that we did actually roll last time: War of the Worlds 2: The Next Wave. This time we fight back. It is written by Eric Forsberg, different writer, directed and starring C. Thomas Howell. It does not have Jake Busey. In fact, I don't see a lot of returning people in general.
Does it have his wife?
I don't see here on this listing, but let me double check.
Hopeful. Cross your fingers, everybody.
But it has half the budget.
Half? That movie was made for $1 million.
This next one has $500,000.
But after that, we're going to do the third one. And the third one had
22 times the budget.
But then when you factor in inflation, it's probably about the same budget.
I see the son actor's back. Oh. I don't see his wife. Maybe they got a divorce because he did not go to their honeymoon. But it came out 3 years later. We'll see what it is. The trailer, if you watch the trailer, it definitely gives Independence Day vibes. Independence Day regurgence vibes.
Yeah, the second Independence Day.
Yeah, that one. I
Which
call it regurgence.
probably what this one is made to mock would be my guess.
But even though it came out like 8 years before that movie did.
Well, then I take that guess back.
Well, we'll see. But next time we'll watch that one. Maybe we'll get to it sooner than in a week. It also stars someone by the name of Christopher Kid Reed. Who am I supposed to know who Christopher Kid Reed is? He's a hip hop person who's in House Party 1, 2, and 3, Barbershop the series, Hell's Kitten. What the heck is Hell's Kitten?
I don't know, but I want to watch it.
Black Dynamite, the animated series,
There's
Super Oprah Ninjas.
There's an animated Black Dynamite?
Yes, there is. So we'll see. And that'll be next week where we watch War of the Worlds 2, The Next Wave. And then we'll watch the one that apparently has a bigger budget, though I imagine looks just as bad.
Retaliation.
War of the Worlds, I thought it was Annihilation.
Oh, you're right, it's Annihilation.
We all know when the world annihilation happens, you get Doom Annihilation, you get Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It never ends well for anyone if you use the word Annihilation.
I was thinking Retaliation because I was thinking about the third Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah. Retaliation has a better word combination than Annihilation. But on that note, that was H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, not to be confused with War of the Worlds or every other version that uses War of the Worlds.
Not to be confused with War of the Worlds, War of the Worlds, War of the Worlds, or War of the Worlds.
Or War of the Worlds 2, The Next Wave.